to be here among so many other Gibsons and Martins and Smith and families, because this doesn't happen often enough. Quick question for you. What goes through your mind when your life is on the line? It was July 3rd, 2011. Myself and 27 fishermen from the San Francisco Bay Area drove to San Felipe, Mexico for a week-long fishing vacation of a lifetime. Imagine blue, clear skies, crystal clear water, whales, dolphins, hundreds of tropical birds. It was a week-long trip that we looked forward to for a year. As we boarded the ship, it was calm and peaceful. There were 27 fishermen, an additional crew and captain, which made 44 people on this 105-foot fishing vessel. At 2 o'clock in the morning, a sudden and powerful storm hit the ship, flooded the engine room, and knocked out power. A guy I met 2 days before the trip came in and said, "Charles, wake up! The ship is sinking." I said, "Huh? The ship is sinking?" He said, "No, the ship is sinking." I guess since we're all family, I can tell you that when I sleep, I don't wear clothes because they strangle me. So I woke up. The guy who said, "Wake up, the ship is sinking," grabbed the life vest and walked out of the room. It was difficult to get up because the ship was listing to the left from taking on water. Finally, I managed to get up. The wall was like the floor, and the floor became the wall. And I opened the door and I saw a group of people waiting to climb up the ladder to get to the top deck. I was on the below decks, which was my cabin. So I came out as is, naked, bunk naked. I got in line and people were pulling folks up by the hand, and some people were pushing from behind. Because again, the ship was tilted to the left. So the guy pulled me by the hand and somebody pushed my naked butt from behind. I'm sure it was not a pretty sight, but he pushed me up the ladder. And I'll never forget the look on the faces of my fellow shipmates as they wondering whether they were going to live or die. A crew member named Alejandro walked wearing a tight-fitting life vest, and he had another vest in his hand. He gave the vest to the guy standing next to me and looked at me and said, "Sorry, senor, we have no more life vests." What? What do you mean you got no more life vests? There's 27 people, there should be 27 life vests. By this time, I'm looking around the boat trying to figure out who I'm going to jack for a life vest. I wasn't going out for that from the night walk. But there's a bunch of old people, I couldn't take anybody's life vest. I saw a guy with a life ring, and I was moseying down to him to try to see if I could hold on to the life ring with him, and suddenly this huge wave came over the ship and knocked me into the Sea of Cortez, the ocean. The weird thing about it was so warm, it felt like bath water. So I was treading water when a crew member, Alejandro, floated by, and I grabbed the back of his life vest. I said, "Alejandro, we got to stick together, man, whether you like it or not." So when we fish, we bring these huge ice chests to bring back our fish for our family and friends. On the way up, we use them as suitcases, so we strap them into the back of pickup trucks. So these huge ice chests started to float by, so we held on to the ice chest. And I suggested we strap them together so we wouldn't float apart. And for the next 4 hours, this happened at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was no ambient light, it was dark, and I looked through the corner of my eye and I saw the ship we were on. She stood straight up and went straight down, just like the Titanic. So there were 7 of us holding on to these ice chests. And there was a light on the horizon. Somebody said, "Let's kick toward that light." So we started to kick toward the light. I was near the front of the boat. People said, "Oh, we're getting closer, we're getting closer." I'm like, yeah, keep getting. I'm like, wait, there's no closer to that light. But the so we wouldn't think about our plight. Our plight was difficult. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. We were stuck in the ocean. We didn't know whether we were on the menu for sharks in the morning, cannibalizing tourists for shark bait. But there was nothing we could do about it. So when the sun came up, we could see islands on the horizon. Someone suggested we swim because we had waited. Clearly, no one was coming to rescue us. I said, I'm not swimming anywhere without a life vest. And just then a guy on the other side of the ice chest named Glenn Wong started to smile at me and took off his life vest and gave it to me. He said, Charles, don't say I never gave you nothing. He gave me that life vest, saved my life. He also had a flotation pad about as big as this table that he was using to float on, so he wasn't a bad. So we took off swimming. 5 of us took off swimming. And the swells were so big that when you went down to the bottom, you couldn't see anything. When you came to the top, you could see the horizons and other islands, but they were all 3, 4, 5 miles away. So if they started swimming, I kept hearing voices, Charles, come on. I can swim, but I'm not a good swimmer, so I learned to swim at the YMCA. And so as I'm swimming, the voices start to get softer and softer. And at one point, I found myself in the ocean, alone. So for the next 10 hours, I was in the ocean alone fighting for my life. So the question I asked you at the beginning, what thoughts go through your mind when your life is on the line? First thing I thought about was my great Dane, Hercules. If I'm not here, who's going to feed Hercules? Thank you, sister. Who's going to take care of my dog? My wife never likes it when I say I thought about the dog first. I had just left New Orleans. My birthday is on June 24th, and my mother and sister threw me a nice little party. And I saw the face of everyone who was at that party while I was in the ocean alone, trying to swim to a deserted island. And I focused on my Aunt Cora and my dad, Harry Gibson. My Aunt Cora had a heart attack at a casino and laid there on the floor for 10 minutes before they got help for her. And they had to freeze her to keep her body functioning and thaw her out, and she's still here today. So I thought about Aunt Cora. If Aunt Cora can go through that, I can keep swimming. I just saw my daddy, Harry Gibson, before I left. He had been diagnosed with cancer. He was right there on the Dundee Street. And I went in to see him. He said, son, I'm not afraid. He said, I've lived a good life. And if this is the end of it, so be it. I said, Daddy, you can say that, I can say it.
Take your time, kid.
So the last thing I thought about was my wife. Because her her father drowned when she was a kid. I couldn't let her husband drown. So I kept kicking. I swam toward the island. I swam for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, but I didn't get any closer because the currents and the wave kept pushing me back. I swam 3 strokes forward, it pushed me 2 strokes back. I decided to change direction, swim to another island, 2 or 3 hours, nothing. Finally, I looked up at the sky and said, Lord, if this is the way I'm going to go out, so be it. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep kicking. And I thought about my son who tried out for the Navy SEALs, and they will always do this side stroke in the pool. He'd be in the pool all day doing the side stroke. I was doing the breaststroke because when I had the life vest on, he was working against me. When I changed to the side stroke, I remember my basketball coach at college, Coach Stagger, says, dance with the girl you broke. What does that mean, Coach? Find something good and stick with it. So when I found that side stroke, I kept stroking toward that island, and all of a sudden I looked up, and I was closer to it. There was a big rock outside that protruded said, if I can get to that rock, maybe I can climb on it like a seal or something. And I got to that rock, and as soon as I touched it, a huge wave came from behind and pushed me to the rock, and then I went underneath. That's when I thought I was going to die. And for some reason, I kicked off the rock and it was on my back, and I couldn't stop laughing. I just laughed about it. Maybe I was laughing because I'd seen death. And I could see the sand on this island. I said, Lord, if you give me a push. I used to listen to this backward preacher named Joel Osteen out of Texas. And he would say, tell the Lord what you want. Don't wait till the end. Tell him. I said, Lord, I need your help. Can you push me toward that island? As soon as I'm standing in, a wave came from behind and pushed me toward that island. And a second wave pushed me toward that island. And when I got so close, I put out the full strokes. My feet finally touched the ground. I was so happy. I looked at my hand, it was white and wrinkled. It looked like a dead man's hand. I'd been in the water for so long. So I climbed up on the island, found a stick. I took the vest off, put it on a stick, so if a helicopter or a boat came by, they would know someone was on that island. And I passed out from exhaustion. Imagine being in water for 16 hours. And as I passed out, I must have slept for a couple hours, and I heard a voice. The voice said, howdy, David. I'm like, God, is that you? He said, no, it was a guy who woke me up, got me out of the belly of death. A guy I met 2 days before the trip. His name was Fish Rich. And he said, Charles, we're going to make it. We can survive. He said, we can eat clams, we can eat crabs, and we can eat flies. I'm thinking, how many flies would it take to make a sandwich? So then suddenly he said, Charles, look, a panga. A panga is a little fishing boat in Mexico. And the panga was coming toward us, and I knew we were going to be safe. I started waving the vest in the air. Finally, they got us into the panga and brought us to a little island called Puerto Bufeo, and we took a helicopter back to San Felipe. Unfortunately, 8 of the 27 people I went down with died in the incident. Some never made it out of their cabin. One had a heart attack and died in Paris. We'll never forget that. So when I would go to different places, I'm a speaker. I would speak at conferences in different places, and I would tell the story. And people would say, you should write a book. Well, writing a book ain't like talking about it. It takes discipline. It takes time to do it. Every day you get up and write, you got to work with it. And when I retired, I said, okay, I'm going to write a book. And it came time to go to the gym. Am I going to write? I'll go to the gym. Go to the gym. Came time to write. I'm going to write, I'm going fishing. Love to fish, all fishing. So after 10 years, I finally decided to get serious. I hired a company to help motivate me and push me and put deadlines on me. And this is the result of that pushing. It's a book called Keep Kicking by Charles Gibson. It's available on Amazon for only $18.95. And since I wrote the book, it's kind of a memoir of my life. Starting in the ninth ward, going to Martinez School, and all the things that happened in the lower ninth ward at Grandma's house, and fishing with my uncles in the swamps, going to Lawless Junior High, Lawless Elementary, and moving over the river to Algiers and all that stuff, and then going into the Navy, and to Vietnam, and to the city of Oakland, where I ended up and became a police officer for 30 years. All that is incorporated in the book. So I'm proud of it, and it's something I can leave a legacy for my grandkids and generations to come. So I brought a few copies. I have some at home. There's a family price for this. I'd say they were $18 on Amazon. They're only $10 for the family. Hello. Okay. And I'll sign it for you. So are there any questions?
I just want to say, I'm so glad we're not in the room.
So there's 2 questions that always come up when I make a presentation. One is, when did I get clothes? Right? When did you get clothes? You left off the ship on the back and when did you get clothes? Well, before I got on the Panga, there was a guy He had on underwear and a pair of shorts. He took off his shorts and threw them to me. He said, Charles, put these on because you're not getting on that boat from this little thing. Well, the cool thing was I got some shorts. The bad thing were inside of me. I'm 3X. So I walk around with Daisy Dukes on. I was on CNN with them same shorts on. So, and the second question people always ask is, will you ever fish again? I told them that I've been on 100 boats. Only one boat sunk. Why would I stop fishing? It's a passion of mine, something I've been doing all my life. Now, some people who are on that ship sold their fishing gear, said they never fish again. That's their way of dealing with it. My way of dealing with it, I'm a lot more cautious and careful